sees Christ standing at the right-hand side of God, and he sees what you and I long to see. We don't realize that we want to see Christ standing next on the right-hand side of God. Stephen sees that in the midst of what's going on, in the midst of his troubles. So in the midst of our troubles, we can see Christ. And that's how our relationship with Christ is so important. And they prosecute Stephen, and they stone Stephen. And I want you to see in verse number 57, Acts 7 and 57, I want you to see that oftentimes it's the little unexpected thing, it's the little trivial thing, something that oftentimes you don't recognize, something that passes right by you, because it passes by us because we're not where we need to be. It's not the point in time where God wants to reveal it to us. And oftentimes it's that little bitty trivial thing that plants that seed. So when we hear that cry of God, we listen to it. You see, it didn't start on the road to Damascus. On the road to Damascus, Saul finally decided to hear it. But God allowed something to happen, some little trivial thing that's going to touch Saul. He don't even know it's touching him. He doesn't even know it's impacting him, but it impacts him. Because while Stephen is being prosecuted, Saul is there watching. Yeah, you never know who's watching. That's why as believers it's so important for us to conduct ourselves properly. To do things as we do them unto God, not to man. Because you never know who's watching. Remember I told you earlier, children from 1 to 5 develop their personalities, develop their understanding, develop the ability to compare and contrast. It's the things we do between 1 and 5 that set their agenda. Watch this. Verse number 57. Then they cried out with a loud voice, stopped their ears, and ran at him with one accord, and they cast him out of the city in stone, and the witness laid down their clothes at the feet of a young man named Saul. Saul witnessed and heard the birth, death, and resurrection of the living God. He heard Stephen describing what he saw, and he didn't even know it. Something trivial, something insignificant. That seed was being planted right then and there, for when Saul was on that Damascus road, he could easily identify the voice of God. He didn't see it when it happened when Stephen saw it. He didn't embrace it because he had another agenda. But on that road to Damascus, he could easily hear that voice. He could easily recognize that voice. When no one else could, he could. And that's why the seeds we plant are so important. That's why the seeds that we plant make a difference. And I want you to see, years later, after to the Jews, Paul was a terrorist. See, it depends on who's writing the narrative that determines who's classified as a terrorist. To the Jews, Paul was a terrorist. Yeah.
We want to thank you for being with us today. If this message has been a blessing to you and your family, we encourage you to make a donation to keep this broadcast on air. You can make your donations by going to Bethesda ApostolicHouseOfPrayer.com on our secure website, or Givelify app, where you can make your donation to keep this broadcast on the air. Please remember, your tithes go to your local church, but your offerings can go to where you're being fed. And as we continue on our journey, remember this. 2 Corinthians 5 and 7 tells us that we walk by faith, not by sight.